Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt and to your daily transfer news update. I'm joined again by Ewan this morning to discuss a few stories involving some of the big teams around Europe. And let's get straight into it. Manchester United are interested in signing Bayern Munich's left back Alphonso Davies, but the player has reportedly set his heart on Real Madrid, and this is a move to Real Madrid that I think we've been expecting for quite some time. I think there's been a general feeling that Davies has been letting his contract at Bayern Munich run down because of that interest from Real Madrid and a potential free transfer there in 2025. Ewan, do you think Man United stand a chance in this race?
No. If you put it very simply, why would you go to the club who's currently 14th in the Premier League when you could go to the reigning Champions League holders? And yeah, I imagine that the writing's on the wall in terms of his future because that's what Real Madrid have done in recent years. They really have targeted getting players to run down their contracts in full knowledge that they'll come in, offer them a big sign-on fee, a la Kylian Mbappe, big wages, and they'll have to pay a transfer fee. It, People don't like it, but it's really smart business. They're pretty much saying we are Real Madrid. We'll get who we want. We are the biggest club in the world. Fair play. Not many clubs can do that. They can. I think it's almost certain that he goes there. I'm pretty sure Ferland Mendy is out of contract as well in the summer. So it looks like they've already kind of planned. They're kind of shifting that upheaval in that left back position this summer. I mean, he'd be a great addition to the Premier League. I don't think Davies has maybe kicked on quite as much as people thought he would when he was developing, but he's still 23 years old. He's got an incredible amount of experience at top level football for Bayern, both domestically and in Europe. So he could be a real brilliant sign for whoever gets him on a free. I think we can all kind of agree now that it's very, very likely that he will leave Bayern Munich at the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned there his age. He's one of those players where I think it surprises you when you remember just how young he is. Like I said, only 23 years of age, and I think this season so far has gone a little bit better than him. Speaking to a lot of our German team before the season started about how Bayern might shape up under Vincent Kompany, there was a feeling that Rafael Guerrero would be the main man at left back, but Davis has played 80% of minutes in the Bundesliga this season. He's picked up his first assist of the season as well. So when you run down your contract like this and force your way through it on a free transfer, it's very easy to be out of favour and to not get on the football pitch at all. But it's important for Davis at this stage of his career, especially ahead of a big move likely to Real Madrid, potentially of course as well to Manchester United, that he is still getting that football, and whoever gets him will be very glad that he's managed to get a few more minutes under his belt this season than perhaps some would have expected. Another Bayern player who could be on the move next summer is Leroy Sane, and Arsenal are reportedly working on a deal to sign the German winger when his Bayern Munich contract expires next summer. Now, he suffered a couple of market value downgrades this year. He's 28 years of age and his value has jumped from 80 to 70 million. And in our recent Bundesliga market value update this month, it's gone from 70 down to 60 million again. And it's been a tougher season for him. He's missed the first 4 games of the Bundesliga season through injury and has struggled for minutes since then. Only 83 minutes in the league, which is nearly level with the 76 minutes he has in the Champions League. He was a phenomenal player at Manchester City when he was in the Premier League. Even though he's a little bit older now, do you think he can still come back into the league and have an effect for Arsenal if they do get that deal done?
I think two big question marks over that deal will be his injury history and how that's kind of impacted his performance levels, and secondly, his wage demands. Um, I think his wife's made no secret that she liked living in England compared to Germany, so that might be a reason for coming back. But yeah, he's a top player. I think when he's fit, he's explosive. He's a brilliant winger. And I think that's a position of the pitch that Arsenal could improve in. Obviously, they've got Saka. They're very, over reliant on him, and rightly so. He's a world class player on that right side, where I think is Sané's best position, cutting in his left. So, could he play as a backup to Saka? Could he play on the left hand side? He could even play up top on his own. I think the issues with that will be again wage demands and obviously his injury history, because you look at it now, he's 28. His injuries are probably only going to get worse as his career progresses. So but yeah, I think he'd be a great addition to the Premier League if he stays fit. He obviously knows the league. He's been here before. He's won trophies here, um, and also getting a free transfer, which is really appealing to so many clubs. So maybe someone like Arsenal, or imagine other Premier League clubs will show interest as well. Could conceivably say it's worth the risk because there's no transfer fee involved.
Do you think Arsenal should be worried that Bayern Munich could potentially try and force a sale through in January? Because we're coming into November. He only has 150 minutes this season. Where with Davis, if they wanted to recoup a transfer fee, if they let him go in January, they'd need a replacement. But with Sane, he's not getting on the pitch now. There are a lot of players ahead of him in that pecking order. If you were Bayern Munich, would you be looking at that January window and thinking, look, we can try get 10-15 million for him instead of losing all of our value in 6 months down the line?
Makes huge sense for Bayern. It's just whether the player would accept that. Would he want to go in January? Maybe he wants to play football, get back straight back into it, but for Bayern's sake, it makes sense. But if you're a player, I think if you're clever, your agents in your ear probably saying, run down your contract, you get a huge sign-on fee, you'll probably get more wages. Ultimately, I think players are quite conscious of the power they have now in terms of running their contract down, and it's really a player's market sometimes.
I'm sure Leroy Sane will be seeing the dollar signs in his eyes with that signing on bonus he could potentially get next summer if he does go on a free transfer. Sporting are reportedly willing to sell Viktor Gyokeres for between 60 and 70 million next summer, with a number of Premier League clubs interested, including Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea. This is a bit of a development from the last time we spoke about Gyokeres, because these stories have come out that Sporting, they say, are willing, potentially are resigned to letting him go next summer. Just to update quickly on his numbers that he's putting up this season: in 14 games he has 18 goal contributions, which includes 14 goals. Since he joined Sporting, in 64 games he has scored 57 times and got 19 assists. He is their 7th highest goal scorer of all time, and he's only been there 15 months. And since he joined Sporting, only Harry Kane has more goals in the top 10 leagues, and only Harry Kane and Luke de Jong have more goal contributions. I think it's a no-brainer for any team that would have the money to be able to bring him to the club. But if you had to, I suppose, look at those teams, City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea, is there any team there in particular that you see him fitting into better, or is it just a case of he's a clinical goal scorer, he'll do it wherever he goes?
It's interesting that they're willing to sell, reportedly, we should say, for less than his release clause. I think his release clause is £100 million, €100 million, sorry, so about £85 million. And the reports that came out over the last 24 hours that Sporting will accept a bid below that valuation. In terms of the clubs, I think he'll be linked to every top club. It's an easy link. He's scoring goals for fun over there. In Portugal, he bagged another 2 last night, I think, and potentially Amarim's last game. So I think it's inevitable you'll see Manchester United get linked, but I don't think that will be a realistic one with the kind of 2 strikers they've got there in Højlund and Xerxes being younger players. If you go through the clubs, City, they only have 1 striker in their books in Erling Haaland. It's not a bad striker to have on your books, in all fairness, but do they need a backup for him, or just Pep quite happy to maybe play another player in a kind of false 9 role, which he's done so much over his career? Arsenal, again, it's Kai Havertz who's their main striker. We've got Gabriel Jesus as a potential backup, but I imagine he leaves next summer. But all the talk is that Arsenal will take Benjamin Sesko. And then Chelsea's a really interesting one, because they've got Nicholas Jackson, who I think is a really underrated player. You forget how young he is sometimes, and the numbers he's put up since he's went to Chelsea are really impressive. And I think this season he's been excellent as well. If you look at his all-round game, I think he's got a lot of attributes that most managers want from a top striker. He's quick, he's quite skillful. The only issue with Jackson is he's quite inconsistent with his finishing, and sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. But I'd say of the clubs mentioned, perhaps Chelsea would be the best option. I know they've got Christopher Nkunku. I don't know if he's naturally a number 9, to be honest. So that could be one for competition for Jackson. But Chelsea are well stacked with players in the attacking area. So yeah, the interesting thing about Gyokeres is I don't really see a club in England that's a natural fit for him at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
I would be very surprised if it was just 4 English clubs that were, I'm sure every club is interested in him, but in terms of actually proactively looking at attempting to get some sort of deal done, I'd be very surprised if there weren't teams outside of England who were looking. I think that the biggest rumours at the moment for Real Madrid and Barcelona is for Erling Haaland. Now, of course, only one of them can get him. If either of them, he may end up staying at Manchester City. I'm sure whichever of those two ends up being unsuccessful in their pursuit of Haaland would start looking then towards Viktor Gyokeres, and even teams in Italy and PSG, maybe they're looking to get rid of Randall Colomwani. Maybe they can try and tempt him that way. But I'd be very concerned for Sporting and where things could be going in the next couple of years, because with Ruben Amorim seemingly on the way to Manchester United, they're now resigned to letting Viktor Gyokeres go, reportedly. And there's also reports that players like Marcus Edwards, Gonzalo Inacio, Pedro Gonçalves could be following Amorim to Manchester United. And even if it's not Man United, when you're losing the most successful manager you've had in your club's history, he's managed more games than anyone else at Sporting, he's picked up more points per game than anyone in their history, you'd imagine players will be looking at that as a natural time to maybe move on from the club themselves. So a bit of turmoil may be coming in the future for Sporting, but a club that has the academy that they have and has the intelligent recruitment that they have, I'm sure they're in a good position to handle it, but it could be very difficult times coming up for them. Looking on to our final story now, and Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou is leaning towards offloading German forward Timo Werner at the end of the season. He's only managed 1 assist so far this season for Madison in that defeat against Brighton before the international break, and I think it's an unsurprising story, really, Ewan. You know, Werner came in last season in January, had 6 months at Tottenham and put up some decent numbers, had some good impacts in games, but this season it just hasn't happened for him.
Yeah, and you'll know much more than I do. It's no secret who your allegiances lie with, Matt. So, yeah, whenever I watch him, he looks like a player who's badly lacking confidence. You know, when he goes clear on goal, you never really expect him to score. You never have that kind of faith that he's going to finish his chance. And it's a shame to see, because I really like Timo Werner as a personality, as a character. And when he first came to England, you know, I thought this is a really good signing. You know, he's got everything you want. You know, that pace. He put up some really good numbers over in Germany, but it's just not worked out for him here. Any of his spells really.
Yeah, I find myself sometimes looking back at the numbers he put up in Germany with RB Leipzig before he moved to Chelsea on a permanent deal, and like his last season in Germany before Chelsea purchased him, he had 28 goals and 8 assists in 34 games, which is more than a goal contribution a game. Played every game in the league for Leipzig that year, and I covered the Bundesliga in my last job, and I was covering it in Werner's last season with Leipzig, and among a lot of us, there was always a feeling that you wanted to cover Leipzig because you got to watch Timo Werner and you got to watch the excitement, the pace, the flair even that he brought to games at times. And for whatever reason, when he went to Chelsea, a lot of that seemed to kind of fade away. He went back to Leipzig, tried to refine that form, and he couldn't do it there. And it just seems every season is a downgrade on the one before. And you know, he missed those 2 big chances against Manchester United and a very similar one actually against Alkmaar in the Europa League last week. And he's just a player who has absolutely no confidence. And you know, I think when he gets the ball out wide, he can drive a defender, he can put the ball into the box. He knows that's an asset that he does have, and he seems a little bit more confident when he has that. But when he's in these positions where you need a bit of end product, he just doesn't seem to be able to do it. And I think Sunday was a massive turning point for Werner's career at Tottenham. Heung-min Son and Wilson Odobert were both out injured for that game against Crystal Palace, and Ange Postecoglou went with Mikey Moore, the 17-year-old, to start out on the left-hand side instead of Werner. Now Werner came on for the last half an hour in that game, but I think it's a big statement from Postecoglou to start a 17-year-old over Werner in a tricky away game like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that loan is cut short, but if not, if he does return to Leipzig at the end of this current stint at Tottenham, and we'll see where his career goes from there. Do you think there's any chance for him to refine that form and to still get a good end to his career out of him, or do you think when you're at this level where the confidence is completely gone, that it can just be really difficult to find that again?
No, I think I can come back confidence if he hits the back of the net, but it just seems just not going to happen at Tottenham. He's down the pecking order. You see the emergence of Mikey Moore, who's a really big talent, and you imagine that Postecoglou and Spurs will want to give him as many minutes as they can. They've got options. You've got Odobert, who's come in from Burnley in the summer, who can play out there. You've got Kulusevski, who's played inside as kind of number 10 predominantly this season, but he can play either side. You've got Son. There's so many players at Spurs who can play in those wide areas that I just find his game time will be limited. And then it's a case where you look at the player and the club, look at it in January and see trying to find the best solution for him.
I think with the curse of the commentator, I wouldn't be surprised if Werner went on and scored a hat-trick against Man City in the League Cup tonight, but I won't hold my breath. Gaming Hub, good to see you in the live chat. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think Timo Werner has a chance to refine some form at Tottenham? Everyone else who is watching, whether you're live or on the replay, do let us know in the comments down below your thoughts on the stories we've gone through so far. Do you think Alphonso Davies goes to the Bernabeu or Old Trafford, and where do you think Viktor Gyokeres will be plying his trade in the 25-26 season? Make sure to subscribe for more of these daily transfer news updates from myself, Ewan, and the rest of the team here at Transfermarkt, and click the like button if you have enjoyed this one in particular. From the two of us,